Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Paradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Paradhari Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Jamuna Thira Panachari Jamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Brajachanaranjana Jamuna Thira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Agyantimidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshuru Milidam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jyotapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana gunafanvitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadhutam harijana sahitam Krishna chaitanya devam Sri Radha Krishna padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Khanda Radha Khanda Namostete Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Sunyavadi Astatyate Shatharine I am very grateful and very happy to be with all of you today. Sri Sri Radha Govinda's historical, most blessed temple. During the announcement, I heard that it was a Bhagavad Gita class I was supposed to give. Even though it's Father's Day, the mother still has to do something. She's not calling for her father. Problem is, does anyone have reading glasses? Will those... It's better than what I have now. Thank you. Whose are these? Yes.
This is like 1.5.
Yours are better, that's why I can't see them. Hmm? I'm just absorbed in reading. It's- huh? Condicia marginal. Okay. I'm trying to, I guess, in my own way, I'm trying to set an example of how important it is to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Vitaragabhaya krodha manmayama upashata bahavo jnana tapasa putama bhavamagata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too material affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it almost is impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, who declares himself Aham Bija Pradapita, the Supreme Father of all living beings, is encapsulating so much the essence of life. When we are free from attachment, fear, and anger, and fully absorbed in Krishna, and take refuge in Krishna, then we follow in the footsteps of the many, many persons in the past who became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they attained transcendental love for me. The whole process of Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, is purification. The Supreme Father of all living beings, God, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, reveals himself how all of creation and all of the created take place. In fact, Brahma Sutra begins with the aphorism, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The actual beginning of human form of life is when we inquire into who is the source of everything. Who am I? And what is the relationship we have? Janmadyasyayataha. The supreme truth is the origin of everything and everyone. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mat sarvam pravartate iti matva vachante mam buddha bhava samanvetaha. Krishna declares, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my loving service and worship me with all their hearts. Sarvayoneshu kontiya morta yasambhavantiya tasam brahmaha joniraham bijavrata. We are all the children of God. That truth is the foundation of Dharma, of all religion, of all spirituality, and the purpose of life. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manashashtanindriyani prakriti stani karashati. Krishna tells all living beings are part and parcel of me. The Upanishads declare, Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. There is one supreme eternal, and there are limitless subordinate eternals. The plural eternals are eternally, forever dependent upon the Supreme Eternal. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyashtasmi tattvata. In this light, Krishna tells it is only through devotion that I reveal myself to an eternal soul. In this verse we're reading today, Krishna is explaining that when we are purified, we realize our true nature to transcendently serve Krishna with love. Today being Father's Day, we understand the Supreme Father. And we understand how that Supreme Father is eternally within our hearts. And when we become purified, we realize the supreme love of our Father. And here at Radha Govinda, we are seeing that you can never separate the Supreme Father from the Supreme Mother, Srimati Radharani. All living beings are dependent on, subordinate, and service of the Supreme Father. And the Supreme Father declares himself to be eternally dependent on and subordinate to the love of the Supreme Mother. And that Supreme Lover, Mother and Father incarnated 5,000 years ago as Radha Govinda to display their eternal love for each other and to reveal that all love that exists has its perfection and an origin in the soul's sweet will to surrender, to serve the love between Radha and Krishna. Although Krishna is the knower of everything, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita tells that Krishna wants to understand what is the nature of Radha's love. Radha Bhavaduti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Krishna incarnates with the Mahabhav, with the love of Sri Radha. In reference to today's announcement, the Supreme Father is appearing within this world to experience the love of the Mother, not only for himself, but for all living beings. And in that motherly love, the Supreme Father is giving their love to the world very freely. Krishna comes in the role of a devotee, especially to teach and exemplify how a devotee should live, to purify or cleanse their hearts. So when I originally was invited to speak today, I was asked to speak on the occasion of Gundicha Marjanam, because today is the day it is celebrated all over the world, where Lord Chaitanya, in the role of a devotee, taught us through this pastime how to welcome the Lord within our hearts. Ishvara sarvabhutaram hrideshya judatishtati. Krishna is within the heart of every living being. Even if we don't want him to be there. Even if we totally deny his existence. Even if life after life after life we totally betray him and cause harm to his children, he never leaves anyone's heart. Brahmabhuta prasanatmana sochati nakangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu. As Krishna is a well-wishing friend for everyone, similarly, one who knows Krishna becomes a well-wishing friend for everyone. Our conception of welcoming someone is if they're not here and they're coming here. And upon their arrival, we welcome them. But here we find Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's teaching how to welcome Krishna into our hearts. That means to acknowledge him and to please him. To make the heart a place that Krishna is pleased to be. That is what Bhakti Yoga is meant to bring us to. Where God, who is within our hearts forever, is pleased to be there. Lord Chaitanya taught that when the heart is clean, nature of the soul shines through the heart. The first verse of Shikshastakam, Lord Chaitanya prays, Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhavamahatavagni Nirvapanam Sraya Kairava Chandrakavataranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipatam Punamrita Svadanam Sarvatmasna Paramparam Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Cheto Darpanamarjanam. The heart, Cheta, is like a mirror. It is meant to reflect the light, the love, the beauty, and the nature of the Lord within our heart, Krishna. It's meant to reflect the innate natural love of the soul that we have for Krishna and reveal the infinite love that the soul experiences by being loved by Krishna. But in this material condition, the mirror of the heart or the mirror of the mind is covered with so much of the pollutants born of the material ego. Through the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, this Harinam Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya is praying, it cleanses the mirror of the mind. Extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. This chanting, like the moonshine, opens and spreads the white lotus of good fortune. It expands the ocean of happiness. And it is the very life and soul of all knowledge. Through this awakening of love by chanting Krishna's name, Lord Chaitanya reveals that in every step we can experience Krishna's love, nectar. Lord Chaitanya recites this verse actually in the most intimate part of his pastimes. The Shikshastakam, recitation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He composed it before because throughout Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita it is cited, various verses. But he especially recites the entire 8 verses, beginning with Cheto Darpanamarjanam, as the concluding chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what is the context? In the Gambhira, where he is in his most intimate revelations of expressing Sri Radharani's love, where the only 2 people actually elevated enough to really comprehend and participate in his experiences are Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami and Srila Ramananda Rai, who in Krishna's Leela are Lalita Saki and Vishaka Saki. They're alone in this Gambhira. During the last 12 years of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Kaviraj Goswami describes the most esoteric, mystical, and deepest ecstasies that he's revealing in separation from Krishna. And in that context, in that place, to Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami, he's reciting the Shikshastakam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, which we take for granted as something very basic. But actually, what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's giving that we're thinking is most basic, he's opening the doors to the highest truths. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes that if we chant the holy names of Krishna and Sri Radha, if we chant the names of God without offense, with sincere intention, and in that surrendered mood for the pleasure of Krishna without ulterior motives, then the names, Kali Kali Namarupe Krishna Avatar, Radha and Krishna have incarnated in their names. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. The Sankirtan of the chanting of the holy names have descended from Goloka, the highest realm of the spiritual world. Just as Radha Govinda, the form of the deities, are accepting our service and willing to fully reveal themselves according to our love and devotion. According to how we surrender and take shelter of them, they reveal themselves. Similarly, the Hare Krishna mantra reveals the form of God, the pastimes of the Lord, the spiritual world of the Lord, the eternal associates of the Lord, reveals our own eternal existence and our relationship with the Lord in this spiritual world. What is the depth of this Cheto Darpana Marjanam? When we clean the dust of our heart, Krishna reveals the highest, most inclusive truths of who we are, who is Radha Krishna, what is the abode of the Lord, and what is the love we are all seeking. Yes, the Shikshastakam was spoken in the Gambhira, in the most intimate setting with only the most intimate devotees. So to think we can jump over that, to think and try to be advanced, we have to begin with this. Cleansing our hearts through actually surrendering and taking shelter of God, Krishna, within his names. And out of his causeless mercy, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us through example. Srila Prabhupada gave an example that when you're in perhaps kindergarten or first grade, it was a long time ago for me. I have to confess I didn't get too much beyond that. But the teacher teaches you how to write the alphabet. You make an A, and in those days, I don't know what computerized schools have, but there used to be a chalkboard and an erase. I mean, you make a slanted line, then another, and then you connect the two, and that's A. And everybody's trying to copy what the teacher has done. Now, the teacher doesn't need to practice that lesson, but she's doing the lesson just to show us how to do it. The supreme absolute truth, the knower of everything, the ultimate object of all love, the cause of all causes, is appearing in this world in the role of a devotee to teach us how to be devotees. A few days ago, actually a week ago, we celebrated Rath Yatra. And the idea of Rath Yatra, that's a different lecture actually, I'm sorry. Srila Prabhupada, when he was here in New York and San Francisco, he would describe very briefly that the idea of Rath Yatra is we are bringing Krishna back into our hearts. And Lord Chaitanya taught us those inner secrets of what Rath Yatra actually means. In New York, I guess Washington Square Park represents Gundicha. Because that's the destination that we're pulling Lord Jagannath. In the Rath Yatra in Puri, which has been taking place for many thousands and thousands of years every year, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here with his associates 500 years ago, he personally participated in the Rath Yatra to reveal how to celebrate it and what the true goal of Rath Yatra is. It represents Sri Radha and the gopis welcoming Krishna back into Vrindavan, bringing him to Vrindavan. We're pulling the chariots to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. In Puri, it's a 2-mile parade, but sometimes it lasts several days because there's a lot of people. In New York, sometimes you think it's very disturbing when there's a traffic jam. Well, if you go to Puri on the day of Rath Yatra, there's a 2-mile road from Jagannath Temple to Gundicha, from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan, representation. And for those who've been there, how wide do you think the road is? Maybe about 20 yards or something like that? It's not much wider than a 8-lane highway here. I've been a few times, one time with Ananta Govinda Prabhu, do you remember? That year there was 900,000 people on that road. Some years there's 1.5 million people on that road, all at the same time. There's no exit ramps. There's no rest areas either. It could be austere. And there's no crowd management. There's no traffic police. The ropes are about this wide, and each chariot has many ropes, and they're like about a city block long. And there's thousands of people trying to get to the same rope at the same time. But there's millions of people doing it. The difference between these petty little traffic jams in New York and 1 million people crowded, packed in, and singing and dancing at the same time on that same little 2-mile stretch is everyone so grateful and happy. They're coming just to be a part of this traffic jam. Some are traveling from all parts of the world. Some are traveling from all parts of India. They just want to participate. Because we're bringing Lord Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra to Gundicha. We're bringing the Lord back into our heart. So now I'll begin the lecture. Now, we just celebrated Rath Yatra. So, on the path of bhakti, it's the quality of hearing about the Lord that's all important. Sometimes chronologies, we adjust. We are celebrating Gundicha Marjanam a week after Rath Yatra, which is very auspicious because it doesn't matter. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Rath Yatra was coming, first of all, after he traveled for 2 years in South India and finally returned to Puri, during that 2 years, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai. All of the devotees who loved him more than their very life, they had no way to communicate with him. Nobody had any idea really where he was. He was walking barefoot from Jagannath Puri in the middle of India and Orissa all the way down to Kanyakumari and all the way up the west coast. 2 years of walking. And it wasn't like, Instagram with photos of wherever he was. He's dancing at Vishakhapatnam at Jyada Narsingha Temple. Or now he's at Kurmakshetra embracing the leper of Vasudeva. Nobody knew anything. It's only after he returned after 2 years that all the stories were disclosed. So when he returned to Puri, he invited all of his followers from everywhere to join him, especially to celebrate the Rath Yatra. This became an annual event. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is inviting us to the Rath Yatra. How enthusiastic everyone was to be there. Hundreds and hundreds of devotees from different places, Navadvip, Shantipur, Kulinagram, Srikhanda, Shivananda Sen and his family, they would organize. He wasn't a rich man. He was a simple devotee, family person. He organized everyone's accommodations. No hotels, motels. There were no restaurants. In advance, he would arrange accommodations, cooking meals every day, so that paying all the tolls and the various kingdoms they had to go through, the immigration formalities. He did everything so all the hundreds of devotees could just dance, chant, feast, and be happy. And he did all the work. And he was so happy. And he was so dear to the Lord. And when they finally arrived in Puri, Lord Chaitanya and his loving associates who were living with him would greet all the devotees with garlands. They would offer obeisances to each other. They would embrace each other. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranged their accommodations, arranged prasad. So now they're all gathered. They're all chanting, dancing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one day, he called for 3 people. Kashi Mishra, whose house? He was living in Kashi Mishra's home. Gambhira was a section of his residence. He called for Tulsi, the superintendent of the temple of Jagannath, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the guru of the king of Puri, and who had become a very great devotee, perhaps the greatest scholar on the planet. Lord Chaitanya, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. He is the supreme controller of all controllers. Sarva Loka Maheshwara, the proprietor of everything that exists. Aham Bija Pradapita, the father and mother of every living being. In so many great religions, people are taught to fear God because God is almighty, not some mighty, almighty. And Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, he is the strength of he is the strength of everybody's strength. He is the intelligence of all intelligence. Whatever abilities we have are little tiny fragments of the abilities of God he gives us. But on this day, Lord Chaitanya is talking to these 3 devotees. And he's begging permission to clean the Gundicha temple. Because without the actual, we're going to be bringing Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra to Gundicha. If we're going to welcome them to come there, we have to make absolutely sure that that temple is completely clean and comfortable for them. So he's asking permission. Let me clean the Gundicha temple. So that it is a pleasing place to bring the Lord. Tulsi, the superintendent of the temple, he says, "My Lord, you are our master. Whatever you say, we will do." And King Prataparudra, he is already giving us order that anything you want at any time, without hesitation, we must carry out your wish. But it is very inappropriate. You are the Supreme Lord, you are the Master. Even in this world, you are the Chris Jewel of sannyasis, it's not befitting you to clean the temple. But if that is your pastime, then I will arrange everything to be done. Tomorrow, on your wish, I will have 100 brand new pots for carrying water and 100 brooms. Lord Chaitanya was pleased. The next morning, they delivered the pots and the brooms to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya met his devotees, and with his own hands, because he considered this to be such an honorable and reverent act of devotion, he personally lifted each broom and gave one to each devotee. He just didn't say, someone distribute the brooms. He wanted each devotee to understand how personal and important this was to him. One by one, he gave a broom to the devotees. And then they all together went to Gundicha, and he had his broom. They swept. Marjanam. Gundicha Marjanam means the cleansing of Gundicha. They were cleaning the dust, the straw, and the sand. Because Jagannath Puri is on the sea. And you know, when you live near the sea, when the wind comes, the sand comes. Lord Chaitanya led those devotees, and actually several hundred other devotees joined them. There were hundreds and hundreds. Everyone was sweeping and sweeping and sweeping. Lord Chaitanya was sweeping. It seemed he was sweeping with the speed and the efficiency of 100 people. In fact, it appeared that he had 100 hands and arms while he was sweeping. He was so enthusiastic. Sweeping is such a menial service. Why would the Lord and the most exalted eternal associates of the Lord be so devoted and consider it such a blessing to sweep? Because they were doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. This is an essential message. What gives value to anything? Anything we do, anything we have, anything we say, ultimately anything we think. What gives value from a spiritual perspective, from the perspective of truth? Samsiddhir Haritosha. To whatever degrees it pleases Krishna, our words have value. Even if we're speaking the highest philosophy, if it's not pleasing Krishna, Shrameva hi kevalam. It actually has no spiritual value. Radhanath Das Goswami writes that when the old ladies of Vrindavan, who are just simple mothers and gopis, when they chastise Krishna, he gets more pleasure from their chastisement than the most learned Brahmas singing perfect pronunciation of Sanskrit hymns. He probably loves those babies chanting too. Very well, thank you, thank you. It's a universal principle. Anywhere in the world, babies cry. That's, I have a lot of realization of that. So these devotees, Lord Chaitanya himself, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, Mahavishnu himself, Sadashiva, Advaitacharya, Narada Muni, the guru of practically all the greatest Mahajans. Yes, he's in the role of Srivas Thakur. They're all sweeping with their hearts and souls. Nothing in the world rather do because it's pleasing Krishna, and they're doing it together. Mahaprabhu is sweeping and sweeping and sweeping. And he's considering this service to be so precious. He's collecting all the dust, sand, and straw in a pile, and then lifting up with the cloth that he's wearing and taking it outside and putting it in a pile, back and forth. Most of us, when we sweep things, we shouldn't imitate Lord Chaitanya, but we understand what he's trying to teach us. When you sweep a temple room floor, usually you have a dustpan to pick it up. Yes? How many pick it up with the clothes you're wearing? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's doing that again and again. And all the devotees see him do it, so they all do the same thing. Each devotee's making a pile, picking it up, and Lord Chaitanya made one pile that he put outside the temple compound, actually, of Gundicha. And all the devotees together made a pile. Mahaprabhu's pile was far, far bigger than all the devotees together. That could be understood in so many ways. That when the Lord plays the role of a devotee, he's the most enthusiastic to please Krishna. He works the hardest to please Krishna. And he's enjoying it totally. And at the same time, he's totally humbling everybody. Because in the face of the Lord, nobody can be the best. But the Lord is pleased that we're doing the best we can. That is devotional service. As Lord Chaitanya is sweeping constantly, at every moment he's chanting the names Krishna, Krishna. And all the devotees following in his line, everybody's chanting. And actually, whatever communication is required between anybody, because when there's hundreds of people all sweeping and sweeping and sweeping, sometimes, they need to communicate with each other. They would say Krishna, Krishna, and the other person would say Krishna, Krishna, and they all knew exactly what the other wanted. There was actually nothing else required. That sounds impossible. The reason it sounds impossible is for us it is. But when our hearts are united, that's what Sankirtan actually means. Our hearts are totally united in pleasing Krishna, in glorifying Krishna. Srinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana. When we actually develop a real relish for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, then the Lord in the heart is pleased. He cleanses our heart himself. How do we get in the heart to cleanse it? But when Krishna's pleased, he cleanses our heart. But we have to do our part. He's pleased when we're seeking shelter, when we're surrendering in devotion. Lord Chaitanya and the devotees are chanting the holy names and communicating with each other, heart to heart, in their will to please Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada explained, when we put Krishna in the center, then Achintya Veda Veda Tattva is realized. With all our diversities, we're unified. Community doesn't mean there's no diversity. Diversity in emotions, natures, experiences, sometimes even opinions. But we're united in the higher principle of pleasing Krishna. Srila Prabhupada stated, you can show your love for me by how you cooperate for this great mission, putting Krishna in the center. They swept and swept for hours. And how clean they made. Afterward, well, actually it's described, they cleaned the Gundicha temple perfectly. They cleaned the place of the Bhoga, the altar. They cleaned all the other buildings around it, within the compound. They cleaned all the yards, the gardens, the pathways. And they perfectly cleaned all the residential quarters for people who would live there. It was all a part of welcoming Krishna. It wasn't just the altar. It wasn't just the temple room. It was the entire facility. That was the standard of the Lord, because this is where Krishna's coming. This is where his devotees are coming. After they finished, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told all the devotees, as he's looking at all the piles, he's saying, now, let's go back into Gundicha with our brooms to find finer and finer and finer particles of sand, straw and dust, and sweep it all over again. Most people would say, is this like some kind of fanaticism? But the devotees understood. If this is for Krishna, we have to do absolute the best we can, whatever we're doing. Whether it's cooking or dressing or decorating or preaching or managing or organizing or teaching schools or sweeping. Whatever we're doing for Krishna, we have to put our heart and soul to do it the best we can. That's the lesson. So they all went back in there, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with increasing enthusiasm, he led them all, hundreds of people, to sweep and sweep and sweep. And meanwhile, there was 100 pots, big pots, clay pots, for carrying water. How many of you have been to Gundicha Temple? Please raise your hand. How many have been inside? Some of us are not allowed to go in. But we can clean outside. And how grateful we are even to do that. These devotees would go just down the road. There's a beautiful pond of water called Indrajumana Sarovar. The devotees, there were so many hundreds of people who wanted to help. And these are all the very internal, confidential devotees of the Lord. They were getting pots and pots of water, filling all of them. And there was 100. And people were getting more pots. And it's just a little narrow road between Indrajumana Sarovar and Gundicha. So they were like crashing into each other, and it was hard to go back and forth. So they were passing the pots back, forward. And all these 100 pots of water are all just ready to clean. But Lord Chaitanya is still sweeping. They were waiting for the word. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that all the devotees, to their full capacity, pleased Lord Jagannath, through sweeping clean the whole facility, then he said, now. And suddenly all the pots of water were being thrown on the floors, in the courtyards, on the walls, on the ceilings, on the altars, everywhere. And the devotees were cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his own cloth, he was using it to scrub every part, as were all the other devotees. And Lord Chaitanya, in this service to please Krishna, he was crying in ecstasy. And sometimes he didn't even need water. He was washing the altar of the Lord, washing the floor of the Lord with the tears of his love. And he was finely polishing every little part till it shined. And all the devotees were trying to follow in his footsteps. And every now and then, devotees would secretly get some water to fall off Lord Chaitanya's feet, and they would secretly distribute it to each other in charity. They washed and washed, and more pots of water were being brought in. The courtyards, the pathways, the residences, the altar, the temples, everything. And the devotees were polishing everything. After they let the water out through certain outlets, it's like floods of water coming out. And it describes there, at this time, the entire Gundicha was as clean, as fresh, and as shining as the pure heart of those who love God. In fact, it describes that Lord Chaitanya had his devotees cleaning everyone like the Lord Chaitanya's own mind. And as they were sweeping and dusting and washing and polishing, Lord Chaitanya was inspiring each devotee Sometimes he would chastise someone for not giving their 100% energy. But because it was no grudge, it didn't hurt them, it inspired them. And sometimes he would praise a devotee. And when he would praise a devotee for doing so good, he would say, "You are doing so good, everyone else should do like you." And everyone else, they weren't thinking, "Oh, why is he recognizing him more than me?" They were thinking, "Yes, let me follow this great devotee and do better." And the devotee he praised, they didn't get arrogant, thinking, "Oh, just see, I'm getting praised above others." When he would praise someone, they would understand, this is just the Lord's mercy. What can I do if he's not empowering me to do it? I'm just trying to follow in his footsteps. And Srila Prabhupada describes how Lord Chaitanya taught that when our heart is pure, it means essentially no false ego. The dust on the mirror of the mind, which is meant to be cleansed, is the dust of selfish passion, lust, anger, envy, greed, arrogance, and illusion. Srila Prabhupada cites Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, that the cleansing of the Gundicha temple represents how each and every one of us needs to clean the temple of our own hearts. And how each and every one of us, in order to clean the temple of our own hearts, it's inseparable from inspiring and encouraging one another as a community to clean the temple of the hearts. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and our Srila Prabhupada's description of his explanation, we must purify ourselves from this kutinati, this tendency to find faults with others. That is actually essential to really make progress in bhakti. Because when we unnecessarily find faults with one another, Lord Chaitanya would correct people, but as a well-wisher. Srila Prabhupada would chastise people, but as a well-wisher, to raise people up. But when our hearts are plagued with the false ego, our fault finding is to lift ourselves up and push others down. Rupa Goswami describes that the character of a true devotee is no inclination to find faults with others, unless we're really trying to uplift as a well-wisher. Pratishta, the desire for recognition, fame, popularity. The desire for material enjoyment. The desire to enjoy material opulences for our personal gratification separate from the service of the Lord, even economic development. Desire for yogic powers. desire for elevation to heavenly planets, even impersonal liberation. Lord Chaitanya is teaching all of these things are compared to the dust, the sand, and the straw that needs to be cleansed from the heart. Anyabilashita sonyam jnana karmanya navatam anukulyena krishna vishilanam bhaktirut. True bhakti is to render favorable service for the pleasure of the Lord, without a motivation or a desire or an aspiration for any type of worldly pleasure, miraculous powers, or liberation. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. That's actually the nature of a pure heart. And bhakti, the goal and the process to achieve the goal is actually the same. Our goal is to please Krishna. And how do we achieve that goal? By pleasing Krishna. Srila Prabhupada appealed to us again and again to be very serious in our devotional service. After the Gundicha temple was completely cleaned, Lord Chaitanya was satisfied. And his satisfaction was everybody's satisfaction. And by this time, they had been having kirtan together while doing the seva all day. Next door to the Gundicha temple, they went to the Narsingha Dev temple and cleaned it the same way. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he began to dance. All the devotees were in a big circle around Lord Chaitanya. He was jumping, dancing. This part is so special. Please listen carefully. He just taught everybody how to clean the Gundicha temple, how to clean our hearts in the process. And now as he's dancing and everybody's chanting around him, he cried. His tears was like a monsoon rainstorm. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tears completely cleansed the bodies of all the devotees. After washing the temple of the Lord, he was literally bathing all the devotees of the Lord with his tears as they were chanting in Sankirtan. What is the Lord's tears? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Satchidananda. His body is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. His Radha Bhava, Sri Radha's love is in his heart. Those tears are personified manifestations, non-different than the Lord's love and compassion. He was so pleased with all the devotees for their Sankirtan performance while cleansing, while performing this most menial service of sweeping and cleaning and scrubbing. Who can't do that? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is a great scholar. Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram. Advaita Acharya is the father of all living beings. They're just doing what every single one of us could do. We could sweep and wash. But the Lord was so pleased because they were doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, to welcome the Lord. He reciprocated by, they bathed the Lord's temple. The Lord bathed them with the tears of his love. I have not found anywhere in any scripture such an expression of the Lord's reciprocal compassion and love for his devotees. And the Mahaprabhu is dancing, his hairs are standing on end, and he's leaping up in the air for a long time. And now I'm going to tell the Father's Day story. Am I over time? Even if I am, you probably wouldn't tell me. I actually asked for a clock, but nobody gave me one. So I'm distancing myself from responsibility. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after dancing and everybody's around him watching his beautiful dance, and can you imagine that storm of tears they were all inundated by? Cleanse their bodies, minds, and souls. Then Lord Chaitanya stopped dancing, and he turned to Advaita Acharya's son, Sri Gopal. And as everyone was looking upon Lord Chaitanya, he turned to Sri Gopal and said, Sri Gopal, dance. As the kirtan was going, Sri Gopal, he seems like he was quite young, he began to dance and chant in kirtan. Suddenly he fell to the ground unconscious. His father, Sri Advaita Prabhu, ran over, put his son on his lap. There was no breath. There didn't appear to be any sign of life, no pulse, no heartbeat. As a father, he was profoundly aggrieved. And all the devotees who were there, they felt the same grieving as Advaita Acharya. Because he was a devotee. He was family. They were all a family. They were coming from all different kinds of backgrounds, from all different places, but they were a family. They loudly together chanted prayers to Lord Narsingha Dev to revive the life of this boy. But there was no life. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes their chanting to revive this boy was so tumultuous that it seemed like the universe was shaking. That means it was really from the core of their hearts. No sign of life. Advaita Acharya, the father, was crying tears. All the devotees were weeping. It seemed hopeless. Then Lord Chaitanya, he said, Sri Gopal, stand up. And Sri Gopal jumped up. And everyone was dancing and chanting the holy name. Why is this such a good Father's Day story? Advaitacharya is not only the father of this child, he's the father of every living entity. It was Advaitacharya's compassionate tears that brought Lord Chaitanya to this world. The Lord sees past, present, and future. Advaitacharya, he's within all of the Paramatma. He is that Paramatma. He's an expansion of Krishna. He knows every one of us. He was crying for you and me today. He was crying for all the problems and all the sufferings and all the miseries for this whole age of Kali. And he's crying for Krishna in the mood of Radha to come. And through the chanting of the holy names and devotional service to liberate us. But on a spiritual platform, even people who are enjoying life in this world are actually suffering. Because enjoyment is just a thin veil over suffering. Padam padam yadvi padam natesha. At any moment that veil is lifted. At any moment, however good things are, there could be disease. There could be death for ourselves. There could be death for loved ones. If we're actually concerned with other living beings, how much suffering is there in this world? Anything could happen at any time. So even if we're enjoying, it's just a temporary veil covering the imminent sufferings. So Advaitacharya was seeing below the veil of people's so-called happiness. And he was crying because the nature of the soul is ananda. Anandamayo Vyashat. And that's what we're seeking. The joy of the soul, which is transcendental to all the changes and transformations of material energy. Lord Brahma himself describes within Srimad Bhagavatam the whole purpose of material creation is to somehow or other give people the opportunity to realize that we're all subordinate to the Supreme Lord and we surrender with love. Yes, Advaitacharya is the father of all of us. He cried for years begging Lord Chaitanya for Krishna to come, and Lord Chaitanya came. And now he's crying for his own son. Now, this is a very important lesson. He's transcendental. He's seeing the soul in everyone. He's the most enlightened person. In fact, throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, he is declared to be the leader of the whole Vaishnava community. He's the guru of gurus. If his son's not his body and he knows that, why is he crying so much? Because his son's dead. Is that a contradiction? It's not a contradiction. It's natural. Srila Prabhupada described it in this way. In this world, we have relationships. Being a pure devotee, even on the highest level, It doesn't mean we discard those relationships. But we understand those relationships and we reciprocate with those relationships with knowledge of the soul for the pleasure of Krishna. So the body is a medium by which we communicate. And one of the deepest lessons we learn from the lives of all the acharyas is how when another person was in trouble, they would feel for them. Paradukkha dukhi. Arjuna cried. All the Pandavas cried when Abhimanyu was killed. Abhimanyu was Arjuna's son. Prabhupada would say, why? He just heard Bhagavad Gita. You're not the body, so why is he crying so much when his son is dead? What was Srila Prabhupada's reply? Because it's natural. It's natural for a father to love the son. It's natural for the son to love the father. If you read in Sri Chaitanya Mangala, there's a great description. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat too. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. When his father, Jagannath Mishra, passed away, Lord Chaitanya was crying pathetically, shedding tears on the feet of his departed father, doing all last rites for the well-being of his father. But it wasn't separate from the knowledge of the soul. We understand the person is the soul, but still the responsibility and the relationship we have with the body as a medium by which we're reciprocating with someone. It actually becomes sacred. So the tears of Advaitacharya for his dead son was not that he's dead and gone. It was that his eternal soul is going to go back to Godhead, because if he passed away, it's in kirtan, in the presence of the Lord. But I'm his father. It's my responsibility to take care of him. And he's my son. That relationship is no longer with the medium of our reciprocal bodies. A mother who's Krishna conscious will take care of the body of her child more than a regular mother, because she understands this eternal little soul within this body, that soul's body belongs to Krishna. And it's my sacred duty to lay down my life to protect this child. In Krishna consciousness, a mother and a father are willing to lay down their life for the child with this deepest knowledge of service to Krishna, to please Krishna. That the body, the mind, and the soul is Krishna's property entrusted in my care. In this beautiful story of Advaita's tears for his son, we learn how on the highest transcendental plane, there's actually a transcendental, deep, spiritual humanity in its perfect state. And the culmination of the whole story of Gundicha was Lord Chaitanya lifting that child up. By the tears and the prayers of the father and of Advaita and all the devotees. And they're expressing their compassion through the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. The Lord brought life back to the dead. And actually, there's no such thing as dead from a spiritual perspective. But in another sense, when we forget our relationship with God. We're spiritually dead. In the sense that we're asleep to our true nature. Jeev jago, Goda Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jayamaya Pisachira Kole. Lord Chaitanya's simple lesson: wake up, wake up, wake up, sleeping souls. We're dead to our real self-interest. But the compassion and the prayers of the devotees and their beseeching the Lord's mercy upon us in their prayers and chanting is actually our qualification to regain our spiritual life. So I pray Happy Father's Day, Happy Mother's Day, in the context especially of the Gundicha Marjanam. Our body's a temple. Our mind is a temple. Our heart is a temple. It's Krishna's property. What pleases Krishna most? Srila Prabhupada was asked, what pleases Krishna most? Srila Prabhupada said, when you love him. In fact, there's nothing else that really pleases him except when you love him. Another time, devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? He said, when you love Krishna. And Sankirtan is when we're all inspiring each other to love Krishna. And as a community, we're trying to give that love to the world. These are a few reflections on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. I thank you very much. Are we supposed to have kirtan or take prasad?
Guru Maharaj, Aarti will begin in a couple minutes. Sunshine Aarti. Please sing some kirtan. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Prasadam is being served, and we are not waiting for you guys. So please take prasad and come back for kirtan, or take kirtan and have your luck with prasadam, or just be happy.